Today's one of those days we're just diving in because I'm thinking way too hard about how to start this video. Hello. If you've never seen my face before, my name is Lauren. I am your resident intuitive baddie. And we're going on a stream of consciousness today because I don't know, it's been an interesting space. It's been an interesting space of time that I've been in. The first thing where I'm gonna start, the other day, I was talking to a friend about perfectionism and how when we want to when we want to produce something and we think too hard about how the product will be received or how we want to execute the project, then a lot of the times we end up delaying ourselves because we're trying to be perfect. And before making this video, I just kept being brought back to that conversation, and I just realized, I was just like, I'm talking to myself. So that's kind of where I'm going to go off of, more so, not the perfectionism angle. I don't know if I've talked about perfectionism before, but I'll dive a little bit into it. But it's more so the idea that you are always talking to yourself. When you go and you have a conversation with somebody, a lot of the time, something that I've been doing recently is that whenever I give people advice, or if I'm having a coaching session with someone, I will note whatever we're talking about, whatever the topics are, for myself. Because as much as the other person is needing to hear my perspective on whatever it is that I'm saying, there's a reason that I am the one delivering it, whether it's because I'm pulling from an experience from before and I'm using that wisdom, knowledge to help them, or it's because there's a part of me that needs to hear it myself. And it kind of goes to this sentiment of how a lot of people, when a lot of people will give advice to people freely, and but when it comes to taking that same advice, a lot of us have a hard time doing that. And it's such an interesting thing. It makes a lot of sense, though. It has to do with the whole you can't see yourself type of thing. So it's like, even though you know what you're supposed to do, we're reluctant to do it for ourselves just because we can't see ourselves. So we can't see exactly how that'd be beneficial, even though if we were talking to somebody else, somebody outside of ourselves, we know that that's what we would tell them. Limitations. I'm so sorry. This is gonna be. I'm not even sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. We're not doing this perfect. That's. I pressed record. So I've been encountering a lot of content as well that talks about limitation, and I've been asked again to think about or to explain to somebody what it is that I believe, which I think this is still forming. I believe what I had said was that I wasn't religious and that I was spiritual. That I believe that we all come from a source energy, and we have come down here, split up, so that we can experience certain things, or so we can experience ourselves. But I have been hearing more about a concept where we specifically came down to experience limitation. And this is because, as an omniscient being, if you were an all seeing, all knowing, perfect being, then what would it be like to experience the opposite? What would it be like to not know something, to have to build something to perfection, to ask a question and not know the answer? So this theory has been resonating a lot with me. I can't remember the guy's name. I was watching a podcast, and this guy was talking about how um, when we come down here to learn a specific lesson. And the only way to learn that lesson is through its opposite. So, for example, if you came down and you were meant to experience, I'm going to use the same example as him, unconditional love, and then you would be met with betrayal over and over and over again until you break past that fear that betrayal gives you, because that's the only way to actually achieve unconditional love. Once you understand betrayal to the point that it doesn't affect you anymore, that is the only time that you can actually experience unconditional love, because you'll be able to love people even when they betray you, or even if you think that they might betray you, you can love them anyways, and or you can figure out a way to love them anyways that doesn't compromise your way of living or your values in living. And when I heard that, I thought it was really beautiful, but it just also makes sense because it goes hand in hand with a concept that I brought forward, um, that I believe we come down here and we experience the same lessons, but it just cycles. So it's like once you kind of defeat a level of it, then it comes back around on a different caliber, and you just kind of go through levels of it, which, yeah, I don't know if, going back to the example that I just gave, I don't know if there's any time that somebody completes a lesson, because what I would assume is that even once you've broken through that barrier and you understand unconditional love, that doesn't mean that you all of a sudden stop being experiencing betrayal. I think you just experience it at different calibers, but because you've learned how to respond in a way that evokes unconditional love, you just get it at a different caliber, so that you're making sure that you're still responding differently, or you're refining that response every time. I think a good example is somebody who, or say somebody was doing financial, or like came here to to experience abundance, right? It's like they can receive that money and they can have that money for the rest of their lives, but they're still going to be met with different challenges that opposes that abundance. I think that's a really good example because when people win the lottery, right, a lot of people end up falling back into a life, or even worse off than they were before they won the lottery. And it's because they aren't able to maintain that frequency when the new set of challenges comes around, even though the life has changed. And yeah, I've been thinking more about, I guess, my manifestation practices, or just my practices in general, my routines, because lately it's just felt off. I don't know. It's like there's certain things that I was able to do every day, and I still do them, but it's not as strong. And I think it kind of has to do with I've seen this meme where they they compare a beginner in spirituality, so somebody who like is doing meditation, journaling, has crystals, breath work, all the stuff, and then somebody who's like a high level spiritualist and it's just nothing. It's just nothing. And it's actually so real, because it's literally like a lot of these concepts that modern day spirituality, it it's all important. It's all important information. It's all stuff that helps you practice manifestation and practice shaping your life. Um, yeah, like though all of those things do have purpose. I'm not saying they don't, but there does come a point where when you're doing you when you're able to kind of just reduce and you kind of have more of a grasp on what it is that you want and listening to your intuition, you don't really need the aid of certain things. Like you don't really need to be doing affirmations 20 times a day or charging all your crystals or whatever it is that you find comfort in. It becomes something where you realize that it's more of a crutch than actually helping you. It's just so interesting because the conversation that I had where somebody had asked me what I believed in, I I started to think more about how different religions are just different frameworks for spirituality that have been tampered with some that have been tampered with a little bit, some that haven't been. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot today because I was watching another podcast and yeah, this girl had said that the framework that she grew up with was Christianity. And I was like, wow, putting it when you put it like that, when you put it as this is a framework, it makes so much sense. Because what I was telling the person who had asked me about my beliefs in spirituality, I was kind of trying to explain that. I was trying to explain that I believe all religions have merit to it. I believe that they all are right, or they all work for different reasons, but of course, once they become institutionalized, once they become a source of power for certain people, it's hard to or it's not hard. I think it's hard if you're not really paying attention to differentiate to separate the things that are values of that framework or religion and then with the stuff that's been sprinkled in that's just kind of for power. Hearing you talk about worship. Because a lot of religions are worship based. I don't, that doesn't resonate with me. Um, yeah, worshiping something outside of yourself. I I wholeheartedly resonate with the 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 hypothesis that we're connected to source. It just makes a lot of sense to me that we're all connected through source because we are all source. Yeah, it makes more sense to me than something something outside of myself that's controlling myself. Like co-creation makes a lot of sense to me. And I feel like I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand, and I've seen it with a lot of other people. There's a lot of examples of people who take care or are able to suppressing the yawn are able to control their realities or really yeah, control their realities. But there's still a limitation within that. Um, oops. I remember a month or two ago, I came across a video where there's this guy saying that we we can only create our lives up to an extent because he was saying that we all have a path, a very specific path, And it was something like, you can only make the path longer, you can't make it shorter, or you can't collapse it shorter, something like that. And what he was saying was like, if there was a job that you didn't get, you were never meant to get it because it wasn't on your path or something like that. And I thought that was interesting because um, when I learn about reality creation, my understanding is that anything is always yours. But I guess something stuck with me for that video because I understand the truth of what he's saying is that your lessons, the thing, there's certain things that, yeah, you came down here to experience in this lifetime. And if there were other lifetimes that you were supposed to experience something else, then you would be there. And it's not that those things aren't happening, it's just not happening in the reality that you chose, very likely. And there's probably a reason for it. I don't know. There's just so much still to learn, and it's so funny because I I feel like I end up in this weird place where I'm like, oh shit, nobody knows what I'm talking about because I'm the smartest in the room. To, oh shit, there's so much that I have to learn. I went to a Buddhist celebration today. It was like the bathing of the Buddha. I really love the temple that I go to because they give you like a little English pamphlet of what's going on and everything. And it's pretty much like you cleanse the Buddha and then you cleanse yourself, which is why and somebody had made a point to tell me about it. So I made a point to go. And yeah, I was just thinking, there, not thinking, I had an insight come up that was just kind of like, you're supposed to learn more about this. You're supposed to learn more about different religions because you can draw from all of them and you can speak to people in their languages. And I think that also stems from that conversation that where the person asked me what I believe, because that person believed in Christianity. And I almost feel like maybe I was coming off like I was saying that he was wrong, which wasn't my intention if that is how I came off. But but yeah, if I can understand all the different frameworks and I can take the best from each framework, it's like there's a lot I can do with that. But in the spirit of learning, this week has been more of a learning week. I started to read again. I got this book from the library. So this is the Wisdom of Florence Scovel. So sorry. Shin. And it's actually 4 books in one. I've read The Game of Life before, but it also has The Power of the Spoken Word, Your Word is Your Wand, and The Secret of Success. Um, yeah, this author was recommended by one of my favorite content creators on YouTube, Neuro Knowledge. I love the simplistic way that he breaks down spirituality because it's in such a way where somebody who doesn't know anything can think about it kind of logically, I want to say. But at the same time, I do find that when I show his videos to certain people, if they're like not tapped in at all, it's like they'll find it cool, but they won't watch it if I'm not there. So yeah, that was a little tangent on him. But yeah, I've been reading. So I've been reading this book and I've continued. I have a course that I'm taking as well that I think I'm about halfway through now, but I had been loafing on. And yeah, I don't know. It's been. this week's been kind of weird, where it's like I just wasn't supposed to work as much, which is so interesting because I had this plan to go over to my business partner. Whoa, maybe one day, my business coach's place to do some work, and then I ran out of tokens or something to work on my website. So I was just like, oh, I guess I wasn't supposed to work on this. And it had been like that all week, where it was just like, I'm not supposed to make a video. I don't, nothing's coming to me to make a video. There's no, I was going to say there's no motivation. It's not that there wasn't motivation, but it just, there energetically, it didn't feel like I was supposed to. And I had felt somewhat, not drained, but just like low, very low energy, but not in like I was sad or anything way. It just, yeah, I don't know. Just, I just felt like I wasn't supposed to do anything. And I kept being met with, this is okay. It's okay to not do anything. I don't have to do anything to prove my existence or my value. This is fine. This break is fine. So a lot of what I had filled my time doing was with learning instead, because it just didn't feel like a time for creating. It didn't feel like a time for moving things forward, and that was evident with within things that happened. So yeah, I just started reading again, and there's a book that I have been meaning to finish, and the only reason why I haven't is because I have a digital copy right now, and I've recently been easing myself back into reading physical books like this one, or just like borrowing books from the library. So now it's making it hard for me to read off of a screen. But there's this book called The Infinite Parallels of the Self. And that book talks about how if we were to think about different timelines and stuff like that as different roads on the highway, and you could switch, essentially you can switch lanes into another version of your life, but it takes certain practices. Again, I didn't finish this book, so I can't draw too much on the wisdom of that, but that called into question that other video I was talking about, because I was like, but can't we just change our destination sometimes? Who knows? Both could be right, both could be wrong. One could be right, one could be wrong. I don't know. That's kind of the thing about this life, but um, yeah, I don't know. It just makes me wonder. This is one of the things that I really love about myself, is that there's just so much that we can wonder about what we're doing here, what our destinies are, what what powers can we unlock, what are the things that we can do in this lifetime. Do we have the same lessons in each life that we take a part of, or does it change every reincarnation? I believe in reincarnation, by the way. I believe that a lot, or that there's some of us that have been here for a really long time. And then even thinking about like different dimensions, because I heard from a podcast today that um I knew there were a lot of dimensions, but apparently there's 12. I've heard this before, it resonates. Um but she was talking about how from lifetime to lifetime you can actually go higher up, and then you can come back down or something like that. And you know what it made me think about? It made me think about a video game. How when you play a video game and you clear a level, a lot of the time you can go back to that level and play it again if you wanted to. But most of the time when we're playing games like that, we just go linearly, right? Like we just want to finish the game, so we just continue. but you do have the option of going back. And it made me think about that, which is very, very interesting because it makes sense. And yeah, it just kind of goes back to this theory that life is a game. And I've been thinking about life in this regard for the past few weeks, where I'm kind of just looking around at my reality and I'm just like, oh, it's a good rendering. It's very good. Or if I come across a challenge, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. All right. We're learning. We're learning to overcome something today. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's, I feel so neutral. One of the other things that I felt like I was tested with this week was just, like I had said before about certain things coming back in different calibers and responding differently. I feel like there were certain things that a past version of me would have reacted too strongly. But yeah, I've just been more neutral, and it's just an interesting sensation because it almost feels wrong, but I just know that I'm moving. I just know that I've shifted because things are so quiet, or because things feel so quiet. Things don't feel super extreme, and I'm finding comfort in it. Whereas, yeah, I think for the past few weeks or the past little bit, it's kind of been like something's always happening or there's always something to report on. I made a video about this already. I'm not even sure if I'm going to post that one. But yeah, there was this a couple days ago or sometime last week, my business coach asked me what was new, and if I had any insights or anything. And I was just like, no, no, it's kind of just it's been quiet. And I think a past version of me would have looked at that and been like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Why is nothing moving?" But I've reached a point now where I truly understand that even when nothing's happening in front of me, that doesn't mean nothing's working for me behind me. So I'm really just taking every day in stride, and I'm really paying attention. I'm just paying more attention, just trying to be here more, and I'm listening to my inner compass, inner guidance. Um, like the other day, my dad said something about my car, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to drive today." I don't know. It's been simple. It's just been simple. Where I'm just like, I wonder how I'm going to be surprised today, and then if nothing happens in the day, then I'm like, "Oh, okay, I was supposed to rest today." And just I'm just thankful for however I'm experiencing life, because I see it. I've also just been looking at the rhythm of my life as well. So it's like I know that things are quiet this week, but next week or the next month might be super, super, super busy. Maybe that's why. Maybe I'm experiencing this little bit of downtime so that I'm rested up for when things are about to take off. But yeah, there's something about the neutrality that I keep coming back to. Anyways, this has been a lovely conversation, lovely stream of consciousness. I think I'm gonna end the video here. I think I've said a lot of things. I've said a lot of different theories and shared with you guys kind of how how I look at certain things or what my certain beliefs are. So I hope it resonated. If you feel called to work with me, if you would like to work with me one on one to understand your self concept, understand your patterning, understand how to shift your patterning, if there is a certain life you would like to be living or a certain thought loop you'd like to break out of, link in the description. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening to me, and until next time, goodbye.